The Three Strips of Bacon by Shoni Elbe.
Once upon a time, there were 3 little pigs that left their mommy and daddy to go explore the world on their own. Before they had left, their mother said, "Make sure you don't let the big bad man get you. Remember, he loves bacon." The 3 little pigs assured their mother that they would take care of themselves. In this little town, it was normal for people and animals to be friends with one another because most of the people were vegans and the animals knew that no one would try to eat them. But there was this one odd man who was a meat lover and loved bacon. Although he rarely leaves his house, the pigs still had to be careful and be prepared for when he did come. As the 3 little pigs were walking around town, they passed a young man holding straw. "May I buy some straw from you to build my house with?" asked the first little pig. "Yes," answered the young man, "it's all yours." So the first little pig built his house out of straw. "Your house will not do any good if the big bad man comes around," said the second little pig in a worried voice. "It will do just fine," assured the first little pig, so the second and the third little pigs went back into town. As they were passing the big fire pit, the second little pig asked the older man, "May I buy all these sticks from you?" "Yes, you may," said the older man, and they were on their way to build the second little pig's house. After the second pig got done building his house, the third pig said, "I don't think this house will stand against the big bad man." The second pig assured the third pig that he would be okay. So the third pig went alone to town to find something to build his house out of. He found a store that sold bricks and decided that it would be best defense against the big bad man. He bought as many as he could carry and went to build. When he was done, he was happy with what he had done. He thought this was the safest house for all 3 of the little pigs, so he called each brother and asked if they would be willing to come stay with him so he knew they were safe. The first and second pig both said they would be okay and hung on. One night, the third pig felt as something was wrong, and he called both brothers to make sure they were okay. "You need to stop worrying," said the first little pig, so the third little pig went on with his day. As the first little pig was sitting around watching some television, he heard knock, knock, knock. "Who is it?" asked the first little pig. "Let me in, little pig, or I'll huff and puff and blow your house down." The first little pig didn't know what to do. He never thought this day would come where the big bad man would come for him. "Please leave me alone," begged the first little pig, and with one huff and one puff, the house was in a pile on the ground with the first little pig standing in the middle of the house shaking. The big bad man walked up to the first little pig and ate him in one big bite. But the big bad man wasn't full yet. So he kept walking and found a house made out of sticks. The second little pig was cooking dinner when he heard knock, knock, knock. "Who is it?" he asked. "Let me in, little pig, or I will huff and puff and blow your house down." The second little pig stood in the middle of his house in shock. He couldn't believe this was happening to him.
He wished now he would have listened to his brother and built his house out of something stronger than sticks. So with one huff and one puff, the big bad man blew the second little pig's house, and there stood the little pig in the middle of his house, shaking nervously. "Please don't eat me," begged the second little pig. But with one big bite, the big bad man had ate him. The big bad man knew there was one more pig left, and he thought the first 2 pigs were so easy that the third pig would be just as easy. So he walked until he found the third pig's house. The third little pig was taking a nap when he heard knock, knock, knock. "Who is it?" asked the third little pig. "Let me in, little wolf, or I will huff and puff and blow your house down," yelled the big bad man. "Try it," dared the third little pig. He knew there was no way that the big bad man had enough power to blow down his house. So with one huff and one puff, he tried blowing the house down, but he couldn't. The house was so strong from the bricks that there was no way that the big bad man was eating the third little pig. Instead, while the big bad man was trying so hard to blow down the house, the third little pig ran out of his house and bit the big bad man, and the big bad man died. The third little pig finally had done what no other pig could do. So from that day on, animals had learned to always take the time to build their houses strong enough for anything to come along, and there was no longer a big bad man to harm any of the animals anymore. The third little pig was saddened to hear about his brothers, but he knew he had done justice by getting back at the big bad man, and he lived happily ever after.